تمام. So yeah, you're gonna share the book. تمام. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. نويت تعلم وتعليم ومذكر وتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وبارك وسلم والدعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقرب ثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم نسألك علما من الصافي هنيئا بغني. اللهم إنا نسألك علما من الصافي هنيئا بغني. اللهم إنا نسألك علما من الصافي هنيئا يوهب بغني. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. Okay, we will continue with our lesson. Right, we are in the second maqsad, the second higher objective. Right, last week we took parts of the Quran, and the Quran is the first thing that we focus on when we teach. Right, so the first thing to be introduced to any child or any student when it comes to knowledge is the Quran. Right, so and it is something that really needs to be revived in our community. The first and most foremost thing, the most important knowledge in their life is the Quran. It is not a side thing whereby they do it, when they have time or when they are free or every other day. No, it's a daily thing that they need to occupy themselves with, right? And it is on the teacher and the parent to do all they can to deliver, right, this duty and this responsibility to their child. All right. So and also and the way Habib Omar he has arranged the importance of this of the subjects, right? It is also the same way whereby you arrange books in your house. So if you have shelves, right, the top row is always Quran, Tafsir, right, and then comes Hadith, and then comes Aqidah, and then comes Fiqh, and then comes Sirah, and then comes Suluk. Suluk is basically Tasawwuf, and then comes all of language, any language books. That is how you arrange your books in your cupboard. Yeah, but I mean this is basically adab with the books lah. Adab with the books, right? So like for me also in my room also I arrange it that way. Where all the entire top shelf is all tafsir books, and then English books they like depending lah. If their topics are all Islamic topics, then you can group them together with the Islamic books. But if the topics are like about life, about money, about finances whatsoever, then they are of course the most bottom shelf, right? So you arrange it that way, right, according to the subject itself, right? So Quran is always the top, right? If you don't want your Quran to be so high, then you can have, I used to have in Tarim half shelves. So the top one is still the Quran, but they're half shelves, right? So then there is nothing above them lah, right? And the most important thing is that nothing is above the Quran in the way you arrange things, right? And also in placing the Quran in your bag. All these things you will learn in Imam Nawawi's book At-Tibyan, right? About the arrangement of books, especially when it comes to Quranic sciences, right? So when you place the Quran in your bag, right? So not to put it at the bottom of your bag, right? If you like, having it like go all around your bag, but to have it, if you can, you hold it yourself, right? With Quran in your bag. But if you can't, then have a pocket that is specific for the Quran, and let it be a bit higher than everything else or above all the other things in your bag, right? So I mean this is all things whereby we take note lah. And if your Quran is in your bag, if you're having a sling bag, then don't flip the bag to the back to your back, right? or even to your behind. Sometimes people they flip, right, the bags to just be behind them. No, it has to be in front or flipped in front of you if the Quran is inside, right? So you just have to be conscious lah, right, of whether or not you are carrying the Quran. Alright, so we went through the reading of the Quran, went through the tajweed of the Quran, right? So for us, for them to tajweed al-mujawwad, right? This one last week I skipped it, but mujawwad basically it means the full tajweed, the full extent of tajweed, right? So meaning you teach them the full laws of the mad, right, of extending, the full laws of ikhfa, izhar, right? All the laws in tajweed you teach them as to the best of their ability, and this is going to be continuous as they grow older, right? As they are able to perfect their pronunciation, you continue to teach them these things over and over again until they are adults, right? And then they are able to handle their own pronunciation, right? But this one you teach them as they grow older, they should be improving lah. It should not be a one-off teaching, right? It should be a continuous teaching, especially Surah Fatiha, to check the pronunciation of Surah Fatiha, right? So and then we went on. So now we are at the part of Tafsir, right? So we went through memorization, we went through recitation, we went through Tajweed, right? Tajweed sciences are all of these are considered under the Quranic sciences. They are all part of the Quran shelf, right? So if you have Quran shelf, that is how you arrange your Quranic sciences. So the pure Qurans are right on top, and then you have your Tafsir, right, that is there, right, together with all the Tajweed books, right, they're all right on top, right, and then if you have Hadith books and the Hadith books, and if you have Aqidah books, right, but of course if you don't have that many shelves, then you can just arrange them all on the same shelf lah, right. The whole point is that the Quran is not placed below anything else, right, and Hadith is not placed below anything except the Quran, because the Hadith are the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right. But if you have only one shelf, you have like 5 books, right, then you just put them all on one shelf lah. Right, but if you have many books, then you need to organize your books properly. Alright.
So like for example, English translation of the Quran.
If it's
belongs to the Quran section.
If it's purely English without any Arabic, then that one is part of the Quran section. It's considered to hold the meanings of the Quran, some of the meanings. So it's still with the Quran shelf. So now he's going to go into the last two of learning the Quran before we enter into Hadith, right? And the second last one is Tafsir, right? And Tafsir is something that is emphasized, right? So and every Monday, Habib Omar he himself will teach Tafsir in Darul Mustafa after Isha, right? So you can actually find it on Facebook. Right? It is live on Facebook. It's in Arabic lah. There's no translation, right? But it is MashaAllah his Tafsir. He will go through only 1 ayat or 2 ayats, right? But he will take up the whole hour, right? Going through 1 or 2 ayats, right? And I learned a large chunk of my Tafsir methods and also knowledge from Habib Omar in this every Monday lesson. You learn secrets lah that he will teach during his Tafsir lessons. Right? He is one person. Sheikh Buti is also another person who he has passed away, rahimahullah, right? But his Tafsir is recorded and it can be found online. Right, is recorded, right? So him and then local scholars like Ustaz Abdullah Jifri, right? So he also used to conduct tafsir, right? And I know there's a website that has all of his lectures there, right? All in MP3 form, right? So you can tune in. It's in Malay, right? So people of the past they used to have all of these things, right? Whereby they would focus on lah, right? So the tafsir, right? So students who have perfected their recitation and who have memorized juz 30 of the Quran should begin learning the tafsir of the short chapters of Tafsir Jalalain and other trustworthy and simple tafsir texts. And they should then move on to tafsir of the entire 30th juz and then the 29th juz, right? So Habib always begins his tafsir from the back. From what you have memorized. And of course, to learn tafsir having memorized the surah is sweeter. It is sweeter, right? But then in our time, whereby we have not memorized, right? So not to stop yourself from learning tafsir, right? But to just learn, right? And then maybe in the future you can memorize, but even then, learning the tafsir is in itself very important, right? To focus on learning tafsir, right? So it's a science in itself lah, and it needs to be focused upon. Okay. Any questions about tafsir? No questions. How do we begin? How do we teach our children tafsir? Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I do. I do that for my husband because I can't teach my kids.
Yeah. So now they're still small, right? So now you can listen in to the tafsir. You don't have to go so deep because I'm teaching adults, so I go deep. If children like things, right? So even like superficial meanings. So the words are just how what the Quran itself says. You don't have to go so deep into it. And then with children, what is best is to engage, right? So what they like about the surah, and then how do they imagine their paradise, and then like for example, mithqala zarrah, right? So like Surah Zilzal, right? About the small deeds that you do. Right, so what are the small deeds? Can you give me an example? Right, so engagement. Can you give me an example of a small deed that Allah can see that I cannot see that you do? Right, that that maybe Allah will give you a reward. Right, for example, you kept the food for your daughter, for your sister, right? But then you lost it after that, right? Probably could happen, right? Or you dropped it, right? And you couldn't give it to her, but it's a small deed that Allah will write down for you, right? It is still there, so it's not wasted, right? Because you wanted to give it to your sister, right? So you can, I mean, in children point of view, it's all children tafsir, right? So in their point of view, so like bad things that Allah sees that nobody else sees. So for example, maybe your brother put his drink there, and you went there and you took a sip and you put it back, right? You didn't ask for permission, right? That is a small thing that no one saw and no one probably knows about, right? But Allah saw, and Allah saw what you did, right? So this kind of things, this is how you build up taqwa in them for children, right? So things that they can relate to, right? So don't go so deep into tafsir, but things that they can relate to. I think Surah Zilzal is something that you need to tell them about, because Allah sees you wherever you go. Even if I don't see, it's okay if I don't see. Allah sees, right? And the angels on your left and your right, they follow you wherever they go, right? So if you take something that is not yours, right, without permission, then the angels will write down, right? So you need to ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. If you did that, ask the person, or tell that person, I took some of your things. Is it okay? Can you halalkan for me? Can you make it halal for me? Right, so that is how we build up taqwa in our children. Alright. So of course tafsir, that you can go deeper and deeper, and as they grow older and older, right, you go deeper into the texts with them. Right. So and there are many I think in the English medium not so much. Of course Nur Ali Khan in the Bayana Institute there is a lot, right? But I personally feel that he focuses, I think now less so, but previously he does focus too much on language. Right, that's what I feel. Then the message itself. Now I think he's going more into the message, right? Because from Habib's tafsir, I learned that when it comes to the common person, not to do so much language, right? Because the common person is not proficient in the even the Arabs, they're not proficient in their languages. So like to go into like the deep difference in the meaning and whatsoever is something that the common person is not able to grasp. Right? But Habib Umar, when he comes to his tafsir for the masses, he will go into meanings, just meanings. And he'll bring a lot of hadith, right, as tools to show you the right path, right? So that is from his tafsir. I learned that that method lah, right, of going into that. So even in the Surah Yasin tafsir, I am not doing so much of language, right, and I'm doing more of meaning, right, to just see how is the discussion going on, and that is the way Habib Omar conducts his tafsir. Right? This is from him taking that. But I know Bayina, they do. Now they're going more into meaning. They used to be very obsessed about language, right? But now, because I think he also realized that people cannot handle too much language, right? They can handle meaning, they cannot handle language, right? So just take, and it's best if you learn it and then you teach it, right? Instead of not allowing it to be you, right? Let them see you as a teacher, right? So you learn it separately, and then you come and you bring it down to their level. So it's a one-on-one discussion. So it's not a one-way learning, but it's a two-way, right? Whereby you talk about the surah together, right? That is best, right? So you educate yourself and then you bring it to them, right? Okay. So other Quranic sciences, right? So khamsan ulum al-Quran. Let's read the book first. Rabi'an at-tafsir liman atqana at-tilawa wa hifz juz' amma. ويبدأ بأخذ تفسير قصار السور من جلالين أو من الرسالة المعدة من قبل مركز النور المختصر في التفسير قصار السور. Right? So in other trustworthy tafsir texts. Right? ثم تفسير جزء عام ثم تبارك. Right? So تفسير جزء عام ثم تبارك. خامسا علوم القرآن. كتاب التبيان في آداب حملة القرآن للإمام النووي. ثم منظومة التفسير لزمزمي مع شرحها نهج تيسير للمالكي. Right, so he recommends a few books, right, that you can go through. Right, so maybe we can go through these books in our classes, right, and then in the future lah. So of all of these things, these are all part of what I'm putting in the mother's madrasa, right? So the one that's going on in Bedok, the one that's going on in Jurong, right? So when they ask me like how long will the course run, I don't give them a timing. I don't limit me to a timing of how long it will run. It will just run, right? So when we finish a book, we'll go on to a next book. Finish a book, we'll go on to a next book, right? To show them, because I'm trying to show them that it does not come to an end. You cannot say, no, I've learned this, right, and I'm coming back here, I want to teach my children, I know everything already. No, you can't do that. Right, so even for myself also, it's not that I finished 4 years, okay, halas, I stop there. No, I still have to intro Habib every day. I still have to hear him every day because I cannot do this by myself, and I can't, and I'm not, right? Because I need to depend, right, on proper sources, right? So it's a continuous thing till you die. Like you need to continuously learn, and this is what you want to impart onto your children. Like you don't just khatam the Quran one time and khalas, that's it. No, it is continuous. It's until you die. Right? You don't stop learning about this religion. Alright. So okay. So okay, when it comes to Quran, so he suggests the book Tibyan. And Tibyan is an excellent book, right, in learning about adab with Quran. It's an excellent text. It's one of the texts we will take on as we go along. So the text that I'm arranging, right, for this prophetic parenting, right, madrasah, it begins with Tibyan, but it moves on, right, into, I have other prophetic parenting texts that I've been collecting from Tarim. It goes on into the Hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whereby he said, teach your children 3 things, which is the love of the Prophet, love of his family, and the reading of the Quran. So under these 3 things, we'll have books, right, that will teach you how do you teach these things, right? So and in fact the hadith doesn't go teach them the 3 things. The hadith goes discipline them on these 3 things. That's the word of the hadith. Adibu awladakum, right? Discipline them, right? Discipline them on these 3 things. So meaning that if you want them to have discipline, they need to learn these 3 things well, right? The love of Rasulullah, the love of his family, and the love and the reading of the Quran, right? So you're disciplining them on this. Right, so and there are books that are written on this, right, on this hadith itself. Right, so there is a book by Al-Habib Muhammad Abdul Hayamani, right, the one who wrote Innaha Fatima. He also wrote. He has a pencil in her mouth. Right, so he's the one who wrote Innaha Fatima. He has a book that he writes that is entitled Alimu Awladakum Mahabbatun Nabi, and it's another book Alimu Awladakum Mahabbatu Ahlul Baitun Nabi, right? And both of these books are in the series that I'm organizing, right? So slowly we will cover the books, and there is also this one of the books is also At-Tibyan, right? All the way, right? At-Tibyan is translated. At-Tibyan is translated. The other 2 books I have intention to translate, but let's see how things go. I have a lot of things I want to translate, but then let's see how things go lah, right? But I mean I have some ideas that I'm going to try to do. Okay, so Manzuma at-Tafsir, right, by Zamzami, right, with his commentary, right, Najd at-Taysir, right. So basically he's just recommending books that people might want to go into in teaching, right? Because it is very important that when you teach books, you don't take random books and teach them. No, but you follow a minhaj. A minhaj is a way, right? So you follow the way of the people of the past, right? So what do you learn first in the Shafi'i madhab, right? What do you learn first when it comes to aqidah? What you learn first, and then you build up. That is how they teach you. And every book will repeat the previous book. Every book contains the previous book, right? So it's not like you learn one book and you leave it and you go on to the next book. No, you learn one book and then you go on to the next book that contains that first book. So you're going to repeat all over again what you learned in the previous book, right? And people here, they, like, I don't know, maybe in our education system, we don't like to repeat things, right? They will complain if you repeat things, right? Whereas, you know, traditionally and even in Tarim, when you learn something, right, you learn the exact same thing over and over again for 4 years. Exact same thing to make you sharp, to make you have it at fingertips. You know all the hukum, right? You cannot be somebody who, you know, have 50% pass. For us, pass in Tarim is 75%. That's a pass. It's a pass. Right? And if you fail 75%, you repeat the year, right? And in fact, Habib expects all students to get about 90%, right, in all our tests, right? Because you cannot come back to the people and teach them, and you know only 50% of your stuff. You can't be doing that and getting all the wrong hukum, right? You have to know 99% of your stuff, right? So, and then it's from memory. So that's why it is tough lah. It's not easy. It's not a simple life when you go and learn and study in Darul Zahara and Darul Mustafa. It's very hard. I have people who are from medicine background, Westerners lah, and they begin to study in Darul Zahara and they're like, this is harder than medicine. It's so hard, right? Because you don't take a module like in NUS, take a module and you go on and you forget that module after that, and you take a new module and you go on and you forget that module after that. No, there is a build up, right? And the beginning of every class, they will just, and they know you've taken the book from before, they will ask you then, right? You need to have memorized everything, every at your fingertips, all memorized, right? So that is the training that they have, and score 90% and above. Like then you're called okay, You're called okay. Right? You're allowed to go and teach people. Right? But if you're not scoring 90% and above, then don't teach people. Right? Because you're going to tell them all wrong hukum. Right? Basically. Right? So, and that is why that kind of system, I mean, that's true education. Right? Because you can't say you're educated and that all the while you've gotten a C. Right? Because you just pass. You only know half the stuff. Right? And then on top of it, you forgot the other half. Right? That you knew. Right? And when you go on. Right? I mean, we all went through NUS. You all know. Right? You learn stuff. God knows where they are right now. Right? But I know when I went through the Razak and the Mustafa system, right, that whatever I learned in that 4 years is stuck. It's just stuck because every semester is repeated. You repeat the book of the previous semester and you take more. Then the next semester you repeat that book again and you take more. So it's a build up, right? And you cannot forget what happened previously. And in fact, Tafsir, for me, I just went through one time. And my teacher, she went through 10 times the Quran. Right? That's really hardcore studying. Right? So they all have it at their fingertips. They know. They went through the same surah 10 times. We all commoners, you go through one time, okay, enough, let's go to the next one. You know, like they all 10 times the same surah, 10 times. Right? So it's how the scholarship lah of the past, right? It's serious scholarship, right? It's not, and like Imam Shafi'i said that, and he is a different level altogether. He said that knowledge is not what that is memorized, but knowledge is in the heart, right? That is practiced on the limbs, right? But for us, it's not even memorized in the first place. Like, we're just reading stuff, right? So he's like, he's at a different level already, memorized and then internalized. Like for us, subhanallah, it's not even like I don't even know where I am like when it comes to this kind of things, right? But basically, that is why to teach them to be able to handle repetition is good, right? To repeat over and over again. So even I think our practice of reading the same storybook every day, even though they complain, same story doesn't matter. Right? They're children. We will repeat the same story, right? Because you're not getting the words, right? So we will repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, whether you like it or not. Right? It will be repeated. Right? And of course, when in Darul Zahra, you do get the Westerners complain. Right? They do complain that why are we spending time on what we have already taken? Right? Don't waste time. Go on. Right? But the teachers will just ignore them and just teach the same thing, right, that we took the previous semester because it is necessary. And in fact, I also was at the beginning, I was wondering why are they repeating the same stuff every semester? Only for the first few weeks. Thereafter is new stuff, right? But they always repeat the stuff of the previous semester, right? So I always wonder why must they spend time repeating this? We have all learnt it. Then I realized, right, that we have not internalized it. We have learnt it, but it's not on our fingertips. So by the time I read my third semester, my fourth semester, then when she asked question, I go, I know the answer. Right? And not because I revised, right? Because it's been done all the while. Right? So it's not something that that I have to sit down and actually revise it. Right? So it's all secrets of studying and teaching. Right? So I'm going on to hadith. Right. So hadith النبوي الشريف يختار المبتدئين أحاديث مختصرة يحفظونها وتشرح لهم معانيها وتعودون إلقاءها بصوت واضح. وقد تم اختيار أحاديث من شفاء السقيم للحبيب محمد حدار نفعنا الله بها وبه. تمام. So Habib Umar, he said that beginners should be taught short hadith. So first short hadith, they should memorize them and be taught their meanings and commentary. And there is a secret in hadith memorization, right? So it is that there is a lot of of light that comes onto a person when they memorize hadith, right? And Hababa Maryam, when I was memorizing hadith, she told me that when you memorize hadith, make sure you memorize letter for letter, harakat for harakat. Right? And she told me and she's being hard basically. And she said that if you don't do so, if you memorize the gist and you don't memorize letter for letter, harakat for harakat, you will be denied of the light of hadith. Right? She told me that So when I was memorizing hadith, right? But they are, they're strong when it comes to these things. So I do try my best. I don't revise my hadith, right? I actually don't, right? I'm revising my Quran. Right? But the hadith that I have memorized, right, I will revise whenever I need to quote it. So if I need to quote the hadith, I will actually check the hadith first to see how do I quote the hadith properly lah. Right? But there is a sweetness and a light when you memorize hadith. So even the small hadith we memorize in class with our children, right, that is enough. Right? Because those hadiths are big, they're major hadiths. Right? They are so short, right? But they carry a lot of weight when it comes to life. Right? The hadith that the kids are memorizing right now. Right, so like for example, the hadith that right now they're memorizing, that I'm using hand signs to signal to them, right, to know the parts of the hadith, because it's a longer hadith now we're at. So as you go into longer hadith, I will use more and more gestures to signal how the hadith goes. Right, so this hadith, right, about bashirul masha'in fi dhulami ilal masajidi binurit tam yawmal qiyamah. Right, give good news, right, to the ones who walk, right, in the darknesses to the mosques, right, by a full and encompassing light on the day of judgment. Right, so as they grow older, they will learn this hadith. And this hadith actually emphasizes those who go to the mosque, especially for boys, for subuh and isha. For subuh and isha, those who go to the mosque, right, because they have a treasure, right, not like the treasure of anybody else, and they have a full light on the day of judgment. Right, and these are all hadith that we will teach them. And then the hadith that is before this, right, the ahabbul biladi ilallahi masajiduha wa abghadu biladi ilallahi aswaquha. Right, and you teach them that the best of places to be is that Allah loves are the mosques, and the worst of places are the marketplaces. Right, so to go to shopping malls, to go, to just random around shops whatsoever, Allah does not like these places. These are places that Allah hates. Right, so why are we spending time, going in and out and just wasting time and like window shopping or whatever? Is the kind of activities Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hates. Right, but Allah loves those who frequent the mosque. So all hadith, right, that instill love in a person. Right? And every hadith that you've gone through, these are selected by Habib Omar himself for beginners in learning hadith. That's why I'm doing my own list. I'm not taking randomly. It's from Habib Omar himself. And these are also hadith that they will teach children in the preschool there. Also from Habib Omar himself. Right, so he gives us the list of what to go through, right, in their first year of learning hadith. Thereafter, there are hadiths that you can go through. I have Riyadhus Salihin for kids. I have a book, the Riyadhus Salihin for kids. It's also in the list of things to do in the madrasah. Right, so as I go along, first, because Riyadhus Salihin starts with the foundation of parenting, and then it goes into different knowledges that you can expand yourself on, right, that even if you don't want to teach them in class, that your daily life reflects all of these teachings, right, at least. And so Riyadhus Salihin by Imam Nawawi, Riyadhus Salihin, there is a book for children, specifically for children. So that book, the Habib, he picked out hadith from Riyadhus Salihin, because Riyadhus Salihin is very, very long, right? So he picked up hadith from Riyadhus Salihin that are for children, right, for them to focus on, right? And then that book is part of the curriculum for this one also, so we can teach them those hadith. Right, so inshallah. So these are all from this book lah. So all the ideas in this class is all from this book. Now you find all the sources The source is all here. It's all here. Like Habib Omar's guidance on teaching. The sanad, no. We don't have to memorize, because basically when it comes to, usually we memorize the Sahaba who says it. For now, we don't memorize the Sahaba who says it. Right, but in Darul Zahra, for the older ones, we will memorize the Sahaba who said it, and also which book is found in Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, Nisa'i. It's mentioned lah. We memorize together the whole thing. But for now, they memorize the hadith, just the hadith. Right. I'm not sure why, but that's the way Habib has instructed. That's the way they're doing it. Right, but as they grow older, they will add the Sahaba, right, who said the hadith. Right. Okay. So, right. So the one that he has said here, we have selected hadith from Shifa As-Saqim by Habib Muhammad Al-Haddar. Habib Muhammad Al-Haddar is Habib Nur's father, right, and he is Habib Umar's sheikh, right. And this hadith that they have selected from this book are the very hadith I'm teaching the kids right now. Same hadith. Okay, it's the same hadith, right. Shifa As-Saqim, Shifa As-Saqim. And the cure for the sick. You all know the words there. Shifa As-Saqim, the cure for the sick, is a hadith that Habib Muhammad Haddad has selected, right, for the masses. And Habib has selected from this selection, right, shorter hadith for beginners. And those are the hadith that they are memorizing right now. And from the beginning till now, is all those hadith from this collection. So it's all inshallah they have the light of the awliya, right, who have pulled out this hadith. Alright. Protection is protection, right? Because they're memorizing the words of Rasulullah himself. Right? So, and of course, it comes in all the hadith of Rasul. There's a hadith of Rasulullah says that my inheritors are the blessed of people, and it is my khulafa, my inheritors, my khulafa, my khalifas are the best of all people. And then the Sahabas asked, Ya Rasulullah, who are your khulafa? Who are your khalifas? And then he said, those who memorize my words and they tell other people. Right, those who memorize my words and tell other people. And this hadith you will find under the science of hadith, under the merits, right, and the virtues of memorizing hadith. You find all these hadith about some speaking about people who memorize his own words. Right, for them it's a specific. For them it's a special mercy. For them it's a special light. For them, are treasures. Right, those who memorize my own words. Okay. So number 2. Right, number 2, ثم يحفظون الأربعين النووية وتشرح لهم ويعودون مع إلقائها البدء بالبسملة والحمد لله والصلاة على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وآله وصحبه وتناولوا شيء من شرحها وختم بالدعاء والصلاة على النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم. Right, والثاني, so the second one, right, Abdul Qadir. Okay. For number 2, right, students should then memorize Imam Nawawi's 40 hadith. Right, and I'm teaching this hadith right now, but in very much depth lah, right, in a lot of depth. Right, but they should at least read through it once. Right, get the book. It's translated into English, into Malay. You can find Imam Nawawi's 40 hadith book, right? And these are the 40 hadith that every Muslim lives their life by and they are saved. Right? 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi. Right? At least have read through it. At least read through it. Right? So you know this hadith exists. Right? And be taught each hadith's meaning and commentary. So he says that so learning to quote the hadith. So when they are learning to quote the hadith, they should be taught to say Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, and then salawat on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then quote the hadith, and then comments on the hadith based on what they have learnt, and then end with a short dua and salawat on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This will happen for hadith classes. Right, so hadith classes we do begin with Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, and salawat, and then we teach our hadith, and then we stop with salawat. Like a dua that maybe hold on to what Rasulullah has said, and then salawat, and we end the hadith class. Right. So hadith classes will be part of this curriculum as well lah. Right. It will be part of the curriculum, hadith classes. Alright. And also in your Arabic intensive, I'm going to start introducing hadith soon. I think in the 6th week. In the 6th week, I'll be introducing hadith into the Arabic intensive. Yeah, for you all. I'm introducing it slowly in the khutbah. Right, but because hadith is the other purpose of learning Arabic. Right? You want to hear his words exactly, and you want to know exactly what Rasulullah said, like what are the exact words that he said. Because the way he said it is really not like how you translate into English. Is the tasting is not there in English. There is some tasting, right, but not the full, spread. There is there in the Arabic. Alright. Al-Thalith, right, number 3. ثم كتاب نور الإيمان من كلام الحبيب الرحمن جمع راعي هذه المقاصد. So then the book Nur Iman, right, the light of faith, from the words of the beloved of the most merciful. And there is Habib Omar's book, and there is also part of his curriculum for the kids. Right, because these are all arranged for us in Darul Musa and Darul Zahra, so we will follow the same curriculum. Right, so he will arrange this way. Right, and this hadith, they are all by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim. And so they are all Sahihain hadith, and they are very, very, very beautiful hadith. The explanation of this hadith, this is amazing lah. To go into the explanation of this hadith, right, written by Habib Omar himself. All right, and then he says, وَمَنْ أتم ذلك فليشرع في قراءة مختصر رياض الصالحين للإمام النبهاني وليعلق بذهنه مهمات المسائل الشرح ويحفظ ما تيسر له مما تدعو الحاجة إليه من الأحاديث. Right, so and then he should focus on learning, right, not memorizing but learning. But of course if you can memorize it's better, right. Learning Sheikh Yusuf An-Nabahani's abridgment, right, of Riyadus Salihin, right. But for some reason in Darul Zahra and Darul Mustafa, Habib has made us learn Riyadus Salihin directly, right. So we're not learning an abridgment but we're learning the direct text of it, right. So we will see your children, right. But by this time they will have been grown. Like if you're going to follow this tartib, by that time they should be at least pre-teen, right, or teen, right, teenagers. No, you all follow the lectures and you all do yourself, right? So you can listen and you can replicate. The best teacher for children are their own parents. The best teacher for children are their own parents. So try to be that teacher, right? If you can, as far as you can. Try whatever you cannot, then you can ask people to help you out, right? But with what you can, right, then you do it yourself, right? That is the best. Right, then at least and when you start young, they will see you as an authority in teaching, and that is what I personally felt with my mother, right? Because she taught us everything, right? So she taught us from mathematics, sciences, English, Malay. She taught us Islam, right? She took it onto herself to start classes to teach her own children, right? So, and even Quran, everything, even Tafsir right now is from her. I'm learning it from her also, right? So she took it upon herself to teach us. So she has a lot of authority when it comes to us. So when we're adults, we take her advice, right? Because she was the main teacher, right, in our life, right? And the parent who is the main teacher, right? And in fact, Sheikh Hamdan Yusof said that the teacher seems to have more authority with children than their parents, right? They listen to the teacher more. Teacher says something, is correct, right? Even if you see something else, no, teacher says something else, right? Because teacher is correct, right? So if you can bring them together, then you are the teacher and you are the parent, that is the best, right? So otherwise you'll be like, okay, what did you say? Teacher say that day about whatever, and sometimes teacher say the wrong thing. It could be like Sheikh Hamza was saying that his kids were learning Quran from a teacher who kept saying za instead of tha for thy. So they were all doing a'udhu billah, following the teacher who was saying it wrong. And Sheikh Hamza was like, no, it's a'udhu, right? And then they argued with him. No, the ustazah said a'udhu, right? And ustazah holds higher authority, right? Then their own father, who is a sheikh, because he was not teaching them at that time, because he let someone else teach them, right? That they took her word over his. Right, so so that is where it becomes important that you choose your teachers, if not yourself, right? Because then you can control like what do they actually hear and who is teaching them, right? So either way, find a way. Right, of course, I would really highly recommend that is yourself. Yeah, and the other habaib, but majority of them who can teach their own children taught their own children, right? So like for example, the book Riyadus Salihin, right? That is written by Imam Ramli, right? Imam Ramli was taught by his own father himself, right? His father taught, and in the tradition of Riyadus Salihin, Imam Ramli said that of what his father said about him, that his father brought Imam Ramli up to the people and said that I taught my son in such a way that he does not need any other scholar right now, right, to turn to, right, because I have taught him all knowledge except for maybe a few scholars out there, right? So that was basically the father taking hold of the education of his own son. Habib Omar also teaches his own children, but in the beginning, right, as they grow older, maybe they send them out, right? Habib Muhammad Haddar, Habib Omar Noor's father, taught all of his kids. Habib Noor, all at the hands of Habib Muhammad Haddar. Majority of the teachers in Darul Zahra were taught by their own fathers. So all these women were taught by their own fathers. It's all fathers. It all goes to the father. The father is the one who teaches the children. But you can outsource. It's not wrong. And there are people who do outsource. It could be for reasons that they feel that their friend, their fellow Habib has more to give than them, right? Or they feel that maybe they have not enough time so they outsource. It could be other reasons like why you outsource, right? But for the young age, when they are developing attachments, right, if it's you, it's best, because otherwise they will attach to the teacher and then not you, right? So as much as I like them being attached to me, right, but I would like them to be more attached to you than to me, because right now there's the attachment towards the teacher, right? Let them be attached towards you. Okay. Alright. So and I'm sure that those of you who have as you grow up, the mother or the parent lah, who teaches you more, right, they have a stronger attachment. Right, for me, I feel that way. Right, for my father, he did not teach us that much. My mother was the one who took control of our teaching. And that's why it is only, when you don't teach, you only have yourself to lose out. Right, if it comes to your children. Alright. So, Hadith Terminology. Okay. Was it okay? Are you all like feeling so depressed about this situation? Don't feel depressed. There is one thing when it comes to teaching that is stronger than anything else, and even stronger than knowledge itself, is sincerity. If you're highly sincere when it comes to knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will allow your tongue to say what is right. But of course, listen to what people say first lah. Don't anyhow teach. Right, go and hear it out first, and then put it into your own words. Make yourself more confident, right? And then explain. Anyone can explain. Alright. And if let's say worst come to worst, okay lah, send somebody. Okay. but when you do so, don't be isolated from it. Be present if you're able to. Right? That means you are also involved in the learning. If you're not teaching, at least be involved in the learning. Don't be isolated. Right? Don't let them go out and learn something and then you have no clue what's going on there. Alright. So then after learning, so then he goes into Hadith Terminology, right? And this Hadith Terminology, right, this is a higher part when it comes to Hadith. It's higher, right? And probably what you will learn if you do go into this will be very basic things on Mustalah Hadith. Mustalah Hadith is how Hadiths are basically filtered, and seen what is Sahih and what is not Sahih. This is important in our time when people go around anyhow accusing hadith of being weak, right, or anyhow misusing weak hadith, right? Because weak hadith can be used, right, and there is entire science about weak hadith. Now, weak hadiths are not false hadith. They are weak, they are not false, right? So that has its own science about it. And this one when they grow older, right? So when they're in their teenage years or in their early youth, they will learn this, right, to know how do we read all these texts, right? So it's not for the young age. This is what Habib is saying about students, right? So by the time you finish with the Salihin, you are very well into your age, right? Because it's a very big book, right? Since I'm not like small books, it's all long books. It took me 2 years of daily study of the Salihin to cover less than half. There is a very long book of the Salihin, daily study of the Salihin, and to memorize and cover less than half, right? So it will not take a short time, right? It will take a long time, and that was very fast covering. If you go deep into the meanings, it will take a longer time. All right. So after memorizing, so Mustalah Hadith min ba'di hifz al-arba'in an-nawawiyya wa sharahiha yabda al-manzumah al-bayquniyya sharhan wa hifzan. This one I began when I was doing in Syria. Right, they were teaching us al-bayquniyya, and you can find it online. Sheikh Hamza teaches it, sharah bayquniyya. It is basically to understand certain things, but it's not entirely necessary, right, for everybody to go through this poem, right? But for serious students, it is necessary for you to go through. Say the book Al-Qawaid Al-Asasiyah, Kitab Al-Qawaid Al-Asasiyah fi Mustalah Al-Hadith li Sayyid Muhammad bin Alawi Al-Maliki. Right, this is the book that they taught us when we were in Darul Zahra, right? And it's a book of Mustalah Hadith that it is simple enough to bring to youngsters, right, to actually understand. And Mustalah Hadith is basically the basis of Hadith. How do we know how to understand Hadith? And the only reason why we're learning it in our day and time is not for us to decipher which Hadith is correct, which Hadith is not correct, because all Hadith have been analyzed by the ulama already. So you don't have to figure out if this Hadith is sahih or not. You won't have to go to Sanad also anyway. all of it has been done, right? But it's for us to understand arguments against it, right? Against weak hadith, against why this hadith is called gharib and whatsoever, the sciences of hadith and what hadith can be taken. This is later on stuff. Alright, okay, we'll pause there because I think aqidah is a very big topic when it comes to teaching aqidah, right? And there is nothing that we can further emphasize. The teaching of aqidah is the most important thing to impart onto your children. I'll go into the different books here, right, and what books are actually important for us to focus on when it comes to teaching aqidah, right? Are you all upset that I'm like pushing all it to you all? As far as possible, I will push. As far as possible. Okay? Don't be upset with me. You can always refer to me. It's okay. Right? But I would like you all to be more confident in taking it on. Right? So and it won't go so fast. They're still small. It's okay. It's not. You still have time. They're still small. Right? You slowly. Even teach them one page a day. Right? For that page, maybe you read it through first, and you ask me, tune in, that kind of stuff. Yeah, or all of these things lah. Even the aqidah and so on. Now I'm teaching them aqidah. Right? We'll see how it goes. You're like looking like a shock of your lives that this is the future.
Teach us and our eldest kids, and then after that our second, third, fourth.
Okay, that one possible. The older crowd can together, and then you have learnt it together with them. Then you carry it on with the younger ones. Yeah. Insyirah masuk je. Teenagers right now, you need to see what have you done with them so far, right? So from there, then I can advise lah. I need to see what they have done so far, because there are teenagers that still know zero, and most of my students they don't know anything. So for them, I need to begin down to aqidah first with them. Quran, go all the way down. But also for them, because they're at teenage level, they have no interest in religion whatsoever. So now I have to even start with first building the interest and the love. Right, so that one will be more of stories, attractions first.
So don't follow.
Right? No, because they are teenagers. They can rebel, and they can refuse. Like younger children, you can kind of force them to sit down and make them learn stuff, right? And as they grow older, you can talk to them. Teenagers, they are in the age of adulthood actually, right? So they need to be attracted by maybe even not stories, then just by logical talk, by rational talk, by things that make sense. Like Tafsir, I would say also Tafsir is very strong on teenagers because Tafsir appeals to the mind, and Tafsir was sent to the people of Rasulullah SAW who grew up, right? Who were rebellious, and they grew up not on the religion, right? They were all polytheists and they were kafir, right? So if the Quran could change them, right, it could change anybody. Right? So for teenagers, I will begin with Tafsir, Quran. Some of the mothers in the Tafsir class have asked me to begin Tafsir for teenagers. I'm still thinking about it. Not started yet, thinking about it. For teenagers, because I do teach tuition, so I don't really cover my face in front of teenagers, right? But I'll see how. Right? But of course, if these are Islamic classes, then there will have to be separation. Right? So I'm not going to have mix at all. Because the worst thing to do with teenagers right now is to have a mixed class of boys and girls. Even if it's Islamic and even if it's separated, you don't do that. Right? Because they are teenagers. Right? They will be interested in each other. Definitely. You can't even stop it lah. They will find somehow or other find out someone's WhatsApp number and they'll find their way around it. Right? So the best, and I don't want to be the vehicle for it. So if I have Tafsir class for teenagers, it's going to be all girls. If mothers do request for boys, then it will be all boys, right? But no mixing classes. That's why I'm with Habib on this. I don't believe in classes having being mixed unless they're all married, and even then also not so safe. right, in our society, right? So the hadith. Can. Once we are done with the sirah, we can go into hadith meaning. Right, meanings of hadith. Right, the topics lah. Yeah. Can. Yeah, the sirah has quite a bit more to go. Quite a lot lah, actually, more to go. We are not even at the hijrah yet. Right, but inshallah, we can do that. And by then they are older, and I will be able to discuss with them better with the hadith. Okay, we will pause there. Any questions?
You were doing the story of Taif. Is it the ayat? Is it related to the ayat Quran that says verily there is when there is difficulty there will be release? Is that
No, it was not revealed then. It was revealed in a different situation, not in this situation, right? But it can apply, It can apply, right? But it was not revealed then, right? No. Okay, any questions? No. Okay, stop there. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فاتنا يرزقنا العلم النافع عمل خاص المقبول وتصد عني مدلنا الهدى وسلم لكم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم والى معلمينا ومشايخنا وذي الحق علينا والى حضر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. الفاتحه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. الحمد لله رب العالمين.